5 times someone broke into my home when the locks don't matter. My name is James. I'm 35 years old now, and I need to tell you about 5 separate occasions when someone managed to break into a home I was in. 5 times, 5 different circumstances, 5 different intruders, 5 different reasons I could have died that night. If you think your locks are enough to keep you safe, you're wrong. If you think you can hear someone breaking in, you're wrong. If you think you're aware enough to notice someone in your house, you're wrong about that too. Hit subscribe and turn on notifications, because what you're about to hear will make you paranoid about your own home security. It will teach you that sometimes the smallest details you miss are the ones that cost you your life. These are the 5 times someone broke into my home. Story 1. The Pinocchio Song. I was in my senior year of high school about 10 years ago. I grew up as sort of an outcast. Not bullied or anything, but I didn't really have any friends either. I didn't mind that solitary lifestyle though. I went through school and then would come home and play video games. Losing myself in those digital worlds was my escape. My home life wasn't what I would call bad either. It was just my dad and me. I loved my dad. He worked so much to provide for me. When I was young, maybe 10 or 11 years old, my mom got involved with some bad people. Their hobbies, if you know what I mean. My dad didn't want to expose me to that world anymore. We eventually moved away. It was messy, but it was for the best. He tried getting her help throughout the years, but she always turned it down until one day she was just off the grid, completely gone. It was sad, but we both moved on. When I got older, my dad would have to leave for the weekend once a month for his job. I didn't mind though. It may seem crazy to some people to leave someone at that age home alone for a weekend, but my dad trusted me. One specific weekend during senior year, when my dad left for the night, I started my normal routine. He would leave me some money to order a pizza and some soda. We never had soda in the house, so getting this 2-liter bottle with the pizza was like a double treat for me. My night was beginning to play out just like every other night that I was home alone. I demolished the pizza and drank most of the soda. After a little breather on the couch, I went to my room and started playing some PlayStation. This is how I would spend most of my weekends, even if my dad was home. I usually played Call of Duty, but Grand Theft Auto Online had just come out, so I'd been spending some time playing that. After a few hours of that, I decided to play the single-player story mode. The older I got, the less I seemed to play the story in games. But for some reason, on this night, I wanted to play something with substance, even if it was just Grand Theft Auto. Since I wasn't playing online anymore, I took my headphones off. As much as I game, I hate wearing headphones for long periods of time. I'd been playing the story for a little while when I thought I could hear something coming from downstairs. There weren't any loud or obvious noises. It was just these sort of small vibrations, little bumps. Nothing alarming enough that I was actually freaked out. But I had been home alone a ton of times, and I didn't remember ever feeling vibrations like that. It was a little after 1 in the morning. I think it's just subconscious to be a little on edge when you're home alone at that hour. Every few moments, I would hear a little shuffling noise. I paused the game and tried to listen intently. When I listened, I would mostly just hear silence, maybe an occasional bump, just normal house noises. Of course, the quick thought of an intruder crossed my mind. I'm even embarrassed to say that at one point I even thought to myself, are ghosts real? But then I would immediately shoot that idea down. This little internal debate continued for about 30 minutes. Finally, I paused the game and went over and sat in my computer chair to just straight up listen for a few minutes, without trying to listen over the sound of gameplay, and the sounds started to happen more regularly. The sounds of the little bumps that I initially blamed on creaking pipes or house noises started to happen more often. The little vibrations I could feel were now happening almost every second. It was like my dad might be downstairs. The only thing missing was hearing his voice. I decided that I was just being paranoid, that I was getting myself all worked up for nothing. I decided I was going to go downstairs and check it out, to prove to myself that nobody was in the house. As the night ran on, I crept slowly down the upstairs hallway and made my way to the top of the staircase. While I was slowly heading in the direction the muffled sounds were coming from, they got much louder. I started fearing the worst. When I got to the bottom of the stairs, I saw a light illuminating the dark walls. It was coming from the other side of the house, the kitchen light. It's possible I left it on, but I'm fairly compulsive about turning off lights. I was nearly 100% certain that I had shut the light off before heading upstairs. I was practically crawling to the kitchen. I was moving so slowly. When I was only a few feet away from the kitchen doorway, I could hear the sounds of rummaging, like someone was going through my cabinets, and that was accompanied by a soft, humming voice. That hum. It was so eerie. I was half expecting to see some big, scary burglar, but the voice indicated something else. I peeked my head into the kitchen. In the corner next to the sink was a very small woman. Her hair was wild, kind of flowing in every direction, and I had my phone in my hand ready to call the police. But I think that situation just had me frozen in terror, but also incredible curiosity. Then I realized the melody the woman was singing. She was humming "I Got No Strings to Hold Me Down" from the Disney movie Pinocchio. I almost fainted right there, because I knew who this person was. It was my mom. She would always sing that to me when I was very young, and it was one of the only memories of my mother that I actually had left. I couldn't move. I must have been trembling because she had heard me. She turned around. A big smile lit up her face. And even though it was my mom, this was not the mother that I remembered. Her teeth looked rotten. Her eyes looked like they were sunken into her face. And in a voice that should have been soothing but was somehow unnerving, she said, "There's my baby. What are you doing awake at this hour?" I didn't respond. I just stood there like a statue. She came over to me and put her dirty hand on my shoulder. "What am I going to do with your father?" she said. "He's always changing out cabinets around. I swear that man doesn't listen." And then she started to laugh, but it wasn't charming. It was like some disgusting cartoon character laughing. She turned back around and started humming and going through the cabinets again. I broke out of my trance and went to my room and locked the door. I then called the police and my dad right away. My dad made sure that I was in the bedroom with the door locked. He didn't go into details, but he said that there was a chance my mother might be dangerous, and I needed to be safe. The cop showed up and I heard a minor altercation. I could hear my mom yelling at the police to get out of her house. Then I heard a brief struggle, and then silence. Then a cop shouted my name and told me it was all right for me to come downstairs. I spoke with the police for a little while as another officer drove my mother away. One officer stayed parked outside of my house all night until my dad came home, just to help me feel safer. My dad came home early the next morning and he spoke with one of the officers. I could tell by reading my dad's body language that he was uncomfortable, that we were potentially fortunate to avoid something horrible. My mother actually had 2 knives on her when she was apprehended. One knife she must have had when she broke in, and the other knife was a sharp kitchen knife that belonged to my dad. She must have stuck it in her pocket when she was in the kitchen. She never used them, or even threatened to use them. But the fact that she had them was enough to freak me out. But maybe the most terrifying part of this horrible nightmare was that my mother had no idea where we lived. She wasn't supposed to have any idea. When we moved away, we moved far away. My dad never told my mom where we moved to protect me. She broke into the house by breaking one of the downstairs windows and crawling in. I didn't hear it at all, so it must have been when I had my headphones on or something, and I thought of my mom just humming and walking around downstairs, potentially waiting for my dad while I was upstairs, and it still freaks me out to this day. Story 2. The neighbor in my bed. It's been about 10 years now, and I've only seen my mother twice since that night. She had been in some type of institution for years. Now she has no memory of that night. But in all fairness, she doesn't have much memory of anything at all. It's sad, but it's true. Every time I hear that stupid song from Pinocchio, now I sort of freeze up. And I just hope one day I can forget about the fear that I felt that night. Years later, I found myself in a completely different situation, but one that would prove to be just as terrifying. I was in a relationship. We had recently moved in together, and everything was going great. We had a nice house, we had stable jobs. Things were really looking up. One day, my girlfriend mentioned that she had been invited to volunteer for a 5-day retreat with the company she worked for. She would get paid a ton of overtime. This would allow me to work overtime at my job even more than I already was doing. I was going to miss her, but it seemed like a great opportunity to bring home some extra cash, especially with the holidays rapidly approaching. On Wednesday, when I left for work, I noticed a weird smell in my car. Not a bad smell, just a very strange one. It was sort of like a perfume, but one that a younger girl would wear. Some thoughts crossed my mind, but I eventually just threw it up to some weirdness that I didn't understand. And honestly, I didn't care much either. It was just a smell, after all. That night, I had a horrible time sleeping. I told myself it was most likely because I missed my girlfriend. I was always used to her being there. Now, this was the 3rd night in a row that I was sleeping alone. I swore that I could hear noises all night long coming from downstairs, but it wasn't loud enough or scary enough to raise any alarm bells. So again, I ignored the weird signs. Thursday morning arrived, and I felt like I hadn't slept at all. I made my coffee and hoped that it would do the trick soon. When I got to the car, I found it unlocked. I'm good about locking the car door, but I'd been working a lot, and the thought of forgetting to lock the door was on my mind. Ignoring the unlocked door, I got into the car and started to drive to work. Same story as the previous day. I could smell that perfume again, and now some red flags were raising, but I couldn't even begin to think about what could possibly be going on. Every thought I had ended with me blaming it on myself, for being overtired or missing my girlfriend. It was the most logical explanation, at least to me at the time. I left work that evening, and once again the smell in my car was clearly perfume. I even had a co-worker come over and smell my car, just to make sure that I wasn't being delusional. He said that he could clearly smell it too. He said it was probably just my girlfriend's perfume. And because I missed her, I was starting to subconsciously notice certain smells that I may have gone nose-blind to. I knew the smell of her perfume, and I knew that it wasn't it. but what he said seemed kind of logical, and I just assumed he was correct. When I got home again, all I could smell was that perfume. Now I was really weirded out. I decided to take a shower and go grab some food and a drink at a bar, just to sort of unwind. My girlfriend was coming home the next afternoon, and it was also my first day off in 13 days, so I was ready to relax. I got home late that Thursday night, maybe around midnight, and got myself ready for bed. That smell hit me as soon as I opened the door to the house. I was more annoyed at this point than anything else. I was never scared. It was just so weird it bothered me. I got into bed not long after getting home and started to fall asleep. I knew that she was coming home tomorrow, so I was hoping all the weird smells would go away. I must have fallen asleep for a little while because I was awakened by someone getting into the other side of the bed. For a second, I thought it was my girlfriend. I was half asleep and my mind just went right to her. As she was getting into bed, she shushed me, and I turned back around. She started to cuddle up to me, like she was the big spoon, which my girlfriend had never done before. But I was so tired and so happy that she was home that I didn't even care. Maybe a minute later, my eyes shot open. I looked down. A woman's forearm was lying across my body, holding me. I smelled the arm, and I instantly recognized the perfume. This was not my girlfriend. Then I started to come to my senses, and I remembered that she wasn't coming home until the afternoon. Why would she have come home in the middle of the night? I jumped out of bed, freaking out. I turned the lights on, and just sitting in my bed was some young girl, probably in her mid-20s. She was smiling and kept brushing her hair away from her face. She kept asking me what was wrong, calling me babe. I was screaming for her to get out of my bed, but she just kept smiling. I called the police, but she didn't even react. She started to shush me again, and she kept trying to rub my arm. The entire time I was freaking out and telling her that the cops were coming. But she didn't seem to care. She didn't look crazy or anything. She looked like a pretty normal girl. She was dressed in very small and low-cut nightwear. And when she got out of bed to try and console me, she put on a low-cut fluffy robe. The cops showed up, and I immediately went to them pleading my case. The woman just sat there, letting me do this. She wasn't armed. She hadn't tried to hurt me. And there had been no issues with the law prior or anything. I later heard she was just some girl. The cops took her out, and she said in some weird, calm voice to me, "I love you. I'll be back. This is just a misunderstanding." My heart was going 100 beats a second, but after some investigating, it turns out this woman was our neighbor on the street we lived on. She was a quiet girl. So quiet that I didn't even know that she existed on the same street. While she lived at her house, she developed some obsession, some kind of infatuation with me. When she noticed my girlfriend hadn't been around for a few days, she started to break in. The poor girl convinced herself that I was in love with her. Through all of this, she was never dangerous. And thankfully, that was the case. Because who knows what would have happened if she actually meant me harm. But even though the woman meant no harm, it doesn't make the situation any less creepy. I had a borderline stalker living in my house for almost a week, and she got into my bed with me. She never returned to her house, and we moved shortly after that anyway. From what I understand, she had family, and the family was notified. Last I knew, she was being treated for some type of illness. Story 3. The intruder in the closet. I was recovering from knee surgery. I had destroyed my knee playing softball the previous summer and put the surgery off for as long as I could, but the pain was too much. It wasn't even the procedure that I was anxious about. I actually wanted to just get it done and out of the way. I was more anxious that I was going to be practically bedridden for a little while. My husband is amazing, and I knew that he'd take care of me. But I also knew that the kitchen was going to be a mess. I'm sure this makes me sound pretty controlling, but I don't even care. I just love making sure everything's clean. The day came, the surgery passed, and in bed I was stuck, and I hated it. For me, it felt like I was trapped in a cell. I was told not to move for several days unless it was for the bathroom, and even then I should have assistance. Luckily, we had a bathroom in our bedroom, so it was only a few hops in case I needed to go. The first night I stayed in bed, and the next day at home I was already restless. I hopped to the bathroom, and when I was done I realized that I was actually getting around pretty well. When my husband left for work, he begged me to stay in bed, and that he would take care of the kitchen and dinner when he got home. All I could think about was that the kitchen was a mess. It didn't take me long to convince myself that I was all right to make my way there for a little while and just do the dishes. I took my time on the stairs because it was not an easy task. When I got to the bottom, I smelled something strange. Not trash or old food that I was half expecting to smell coming from the kitchen. What I smelled was what I thought at first was sort of cheap cologne. But I know my husband doesn't even wear cologne. And then it hit me harder as I took a few more steps. It wasn't cologne. What I was smelling was Axe body spray. I knew it right away. When I was in middle school, all the teenage boys would spray themselves with it after gym class to mask the smell of body odor. And I'll never forget that horrible smell. I took a few more hops. I know I should have had my walker at the time. And the smell was so strong that I felt like I could taste it. I knew my husband wasn't wearing that, because I could have easily smelled it on him by now in our relationship. I went to text my husband and said, "Hey, don't get mad, but I actually hobbled downstairs. Why does it smell like Axe body spray here?" After I sent it, I went to the kitchen, and I'll have to be honest, I was surprised it wasn't a mess. There was a small plate and fork in the sink, and other than that, he was doing a good job at keeping the kitchen in line. I went over and washed a couple of the things in the sink, and noticed that the back door, which is in the kitchen, was slightly opened. More ajar or cracked than actually opened, but it still wasn't shut. Maybe this isn't that big of a deal for some people, but we rarely, if ever, use that door. When we go out back, we usually go out the side door. We usually just keep that door locked and put the recycling bin in front of that door. I sort of hobbled over to investigate some more, and I noticed that the bin had moved a few inches as well. It was like the door was open from the outside, and the bin slid out of the way. Just enough to let someone in. I already knew the answer, but I texted my husband anyway and said, "Did you open the back door for any reason?" He didn't respond right away. I hopped back into the living room and sat on the couch, trying to put all the pieces together and put a rational spin on everything. The thought of someone breaking in didn't even remotely cross my mind, because we lived in a really nice neighborhood with almost no crime ever. My husband called me back a few minutes later and told me that he had called the police just as a precaution, to make sure nobody broke in, and that he was heading home from work as well. I got off the phone with him and sat there quietly, waiting for the police and my husband to show up. Then, without noticing, bang. The closet door in the living room shot open. A tall man dressed in black ran out of the closet and out the back door. As soon as he ran by, that smell of axe was incredibly overwhelming. I tried hopping to the window, but I was only able to get a brief glance of the man as he ran by the side of the house. I noticed a very thick beard, and that was pretty much it. He was out of my sight in seconds. Not long after the police showed up, and then my husband right after. I gave them all the information I could. But like I said, I didn't really have much to give to the police. The most disturbing part of all of this is that the cops are sure that the person didn't break into the house. There were no signs that he forced himself in, which led the police to believe that whoever this intruder was, he may have had a key to the house. My husband went out right away and bought new locks for all the doors and made sure all the windows were locked as well. No other neighbors reported anything suspicious, which makes it even more likely that this person targeted our house specifically. He also didn't steal anything, which begs the question, what the hell did he want? Story 4. The Mysterious Debt. When I was in high school, something traumatic and horrifying happened to me when I stayed overnight at one of my buddy's houses. His parents were going out of town on Saturday night to celebrate their anniversary. He invited me over to just kind of kick it and hang out for the night, so he wasn't alone. We did invite a few people over, played some games, but ultimately everyone left around 11 or so. He and I hung out for a little while longer, but then decided to lie down at around 2 in the morning. We were dozing off watching The Office when we heard a loud bang downstairs. I thought it sounded like it was the door, but my friend said that he thought it was a neighbor and just to ignore it. He was pretty tired at that moment, and now we were both on the verge of sleeping. So we didn't overreact at first. Maybe it was just the neighbor. I mean, it could have been a bird hitting the house or something. And just as we convinced ourselves it was nothing to worry about, the knocks at the door started, almost in a perfect rhythm. The bangs on the door echoed throughout the house. We had no idea at that moment what to do. This was clearly not a neighbor. This was real life. And there was someone knocking on the door at 2 in the morning. Every couple of seconds the knocks would come again. Sometimes they were harder. Sometimes they were light knocks. It didn't matter what type of knock it was. Just the thought that someone was standing out there at this hour was enough to scare us out of our wits. We both snuck over to one of the windows so we could catch a glimpse of the knocking person. It was just a normal-looking man. He didn't look like some addict, a criminal, or even just really sketchy. He literally looked completely normal. He was wearing what seemed to be a nice pair of sneakers, jeans, and had a nice sort of Nike polo shirt on. The kind you might even wear going golfing. His hair was short and parted, but neatly groomed, and he was clean-shaven. Not exactly a scary individual, but still just so weird and so unsettling given the time. We both looked at each other in confusion, trying to process what was happening, trying to think of the correct way to handle this. And then he started to bang on the door again. And we jumped. Remember, this is 2 in the morning. So this could have been a Girl Scout selling cookies, and it would have been unsettling. My friend was trying to call his parents. He was unsuccessful, but he kept trying. The guy finally just walked away, but the relief was short-lived. Maybe 30 seconds later he returned, and he taped a note on the front door. He didn't knock this time, or anything, just left that note. He sat on the front steps for almost 5 minutes, and then walked away. I kept looking outside, but I couldn't see him, and we both decided that whoever this character was, he had to have been gone now. My friend went to unlock the door, and I yelled at him to stop. He told me the guy was gone, and that I had nothing to worry about anymore. He wanted to know what the note said, and I'm not going to lie. I wanted to know what it said as well. My friend opened the door and grabbed the note, and as he was pulling the tape off the door, we heard a loud bellowing voice from the distance, "Hey, you!" And we both froze and looked up. The knocking man came out of the bushes from across the street and started to charge at the door. We both screamed as we were shutting the door, and another large man came out of the bushes and followed the man from earlier. My buddy slammed the door and was fortunate enough to get it locked before they reached the door. Both men started to pound on that door. Not knocking, pounding. I looked out the window, and I saw the larger man who wasn't out there originally slamming his shoulder into the door. The bangs on the door were unrelenting, and we started to fear the worst. Finally, my friend called the police, and the guys outside must have heard what we were saying, because they fled instantly. The police showed up, and thankfully were able to get a hold of my friend's parents, and they came home immediately. The worst part about all of this was the note that had been taped to the door. It was a very violent and detailed note about being at the house to pick up the money. I remember it saying things like, "No more running around, no more excuses," and a bunch of other things like that. The note was signed with some name like Leroy. His dad denied everything and claimed and swore up and down that he had no idea who this Leroy was and what money he was talking about. I remember it being very weird and very uncomfortable around this family for a while, until it was all sort of forgotten about. My friend and I never forgot about that night though, and we still talk about it to this day. I wondered to myself all the time if his dad was secretly up to something. I mean, the note addressed him specifically by name. They knew where he lived. And then after that night, nothing ever happened again. It just all seems so weird. But I guess I don't know enough about the criminal underbelly of society to know if this is normal or not. We never got any more closure on that night, and trust me, I tried. One night we pestered his dad for an hour trying to get information, and he just kind of rolled his eyes, saying that it just must have been some weirdo playing a prank. Maybe. And whatever it was a horrible night and a horrible memory that I'll always remember. Log, what I've learned. These 5 stories have taught me something that I will carry with me for the rest of my life. Your home is not as safe as you think it is. The person in your kitchen singing a Disney song could be your estranged mother with 2 knives. The smell you keep noticing in your car could be a neighbor who's breaking into your house and getting into your bed. The closet door you thought you closed could be hiding a stranger waiting for the right moment. The people knocking on your door 2 in the morning might be connected to a secret your neighbor's father has been keeping. And the sounds you hear at night might not be the house settling. They might be someone trying to figure out if you're home. What saved me in these situations was luck, awareness, or sometimes just the grace of God. But not everyone is lucky enough to survive. Not everyone gets a second chance. So lock your doors, check your closets, and most importantly, trust your instincts. Because your gut knows something your brain hasn't figured out yet, and that intuition might be the only thing standing between you and someone who has decided you're their next target. Be safe out there.